The discovery on the hill. On August 20th, 1966, a young man stumbled upon the bodies of two electronics technicians, Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana, lying on Morro do Vintém, a steep hill thick with vegetation in a city in Brazil. The bodies were positioned side by side, as if they had collapsed without resistance. No signs of struggle, no visible wounds, no expressions of pain. They were both dressed in formal waterproof suits, neatly buttoned up to the collar, and on their faces, handmade lead masks covered their eyes, as if meant to shield them from a light that never came. Everything around them felt disturbingly out of place. An empty bottle of water, a carefully folded towel, and a notebook containing a series of handwritten instructions in Portuguese. There were no signs of violence, no traces of unusual fluids, no injuries. Only the absolute silence of the hill, broken only by the hum of insects and the distant whisper of the wind. It was as if the men had willingly surrendered to their fate, as if they had followed a higher command. But from whom and why? The journey into the unknown. In the days leading up to their deaths, the two friends had quietly left their hometown of Campos dos Goitacazes, telling those close to them that they were going to buy supplies for work. They carried money, some clothing, tools, and an air of quiet tension. According to witnesses, Miguel seemed anxious. Manuel spoke very little. Both appeared deeply focused, as if a revelation was drawing near, something they had been preparing for. As the investigation unfolded, more unsettling details emerged. It was discovered that the two men were interested in spiritual experiments. They read about extraterrestrial communication, took part in spiritist circles, and had even conducted homemade experiments involving radiation and magnetism. They believed, with absolute conviction, that it was possible to make contact with higher intelligences. But something went wrong. The police were never able to determine the exact cause of death. Toxicological tests were incomplete, and the case was left open, unanswered. No one could say what capsules the men had taken, or who had led them to follow such a precise and mysterious set of instructions. Was it a ritual, a cult, a failed experiment, or something far beyond human understanding? The condition of the bodies. The investigators who arrived at the scene that afternoon would never forget what they saw. The air felt heavy. The birds were silent. Even the insects seemed to avoid the area, as if something unseen were protecting the bodies, or marking them. There were no footprints nearby to suggest the presence of anyone else, only the vegetation flattened by their own steps. But that wasn't the most unsettling part. It was the condition of the bodies, untouched, with no external signs of harm. Only one disturbing detail stood out: the lead masks. Early theories suggested poisoning, perhaps a planned act between the two men, but the evidence was poorly handled. Unaware of the case's true scope, the authorities failed to preserve key samples for toxicological analysis. Whatever happened that night was lost forever. The notebook and the signal. According to records and witness accounts, on August 17, 1966, the two men left their hometown, claiming they were going to buy materials to build an antenna. They traveled over 200 kilometers to Niterói. Along the way, Miguel appeared uneasy. At times, he murmured things that didn't seem to make sense. At one point, They stopped to purchase a bottle of mineral water, which would later be found empty beside their bodies. The woman who sold it to them would recall years later. They were in a hurry, but they didn't look rushed, more like they needed to be at a very specific place, at a very specific time. Among their belongings, police discovered an old notebook filled with technical notes on electricity, radio frequencies, and one particular page written in clear, deliberate handwriting. 4:30 p.m. Be at the agreed place. 6:30 p.m. Ingest capsules. Afterward, protect metals. Wait for signal. Mask. What kind of signal were they waiting for? Who had told them what to do? And what exactly were those capsules? Contacts and the cult of lead. Back in Campos, their hometown, police uncovered that the two men were part of a clandestine esoteric group that believed it was possible to communicate with higher beings through electromagnetic energy. One of their close friends made a chilling confession. Miguel and Manuel told me they had an appointment with an entity from beyond, and that if everything went well, they would return with knowledge that could change the world. If not, well, they were willing to take the risk. But what truly unsettled the lead investigator was what the friend added next. It wasn't the first time they had tried something like this, but this time, the masks were new. Chilling theories. When the story reached the press, the case quickly captured the attention of people all across Brazil, but nothing seemed to fit. Contact with extraterrestrials. Some believed the lead masks were meant to shield them from radiation emitted by an alien craft, and that the signal mentioned in their note referred to a cosmic frequency. Perhaps something or someone answered, but not in the way they expected. Failed energy experiments. Others theorized that the two men were attempting to open mental portals, a kind of induced trance designed to access another dimension. But something may have gone wrong. Cult influence or mental manipulation. Another theory pointed to a spiritual leader or figure of authority who may have convinced them, or perhaps even pressured them, into following the ritual. The absence of capsules at the scene raised suspicions. Someone else might have been there and taken something before leaving unnoticed. The official explanation. Without solid evidence, the police eventually closed the case as a death by unknown causes. But no one truly believed that. Everything about the case hinted at a dark plan with no clear end. The lights on the hill. Weeks later, the testimonies began to emerge. Residents claimed they had seen bright lights hovering over the hill on the night of August 17th. Some spoke of a steady humming sound that filled the air. One woman swore she had seen figures floating among the trees. A night watchman gave a statement that left investigators uneasy. I saw two people slowly climbing the hill, walking with mechanical steps, and behind them, a tall figure dressed in black, holding a lantern that didn't shine with light, but with shadow. The police dismissed all of it as superstition and imagination. But from that day forward, no one dared to climb the hill after dark.